Your introduction to the game, and possibly one of the most difficult choices for a new player, classes are just there to make you think that you have a choice. And so, I'm going to be ranking them for you, because really, who wants to spend time trying to min-max when I can do it for you? At number 10, we have the Cleric. Ah, yes, the hammer-wielding whack-a-mole enthusiast with a god complex. You can have meh spells with force sucking for just about every situation, and heal being worse than just using a dang flask, plus a high luck stat that annoys me tremendously. The armor and shield aren't great, the vitality and intelligence aren't good, but for a pure faith build, you're getting the highest faith with actually good physical stats to boot. And the mace is a good weapon for stance breaking and is a very reliable option for players even into late game or even new game plus cycles. And it's still very clearly a good pick. The equipment isn't great, but the stats are just barely okay enough to save it from never getting chosen. At number 9, we have the Deprived. The best class for those who have a build in mind and want to go for it with no interruptions and extra fluff. The min-maxers build. The man's build. Level 1 with solid basic 10s across the board. No armor, horrible shield, and a meh weapon that all leads to a class carried solely by potential. For endgame players who are looking for a new challenge, it's a must-have. And for everyone else, just look somewhere else. Seriously. I can't even say that this thing is that bad because it's only bad if you're new to the game. This guy sucks because it's his job to be crafted to perfection later, and it's designed to be used by the most brilliant minds of Souls games. Number 8, the Sorcerer. Picking this class pretty much guarantees that you're going to be using a pure caster build, because that starting health, weapon, and strength makes me sick to my stomach. You're getting incredible attunement and intelligence while having horrible vitality and faith, and that makes sense. Plus, you're getting low vigor and endurance because you're going to be using spells at range. The spells you get are actually really good to have. I personally think that they're very reliable and probably the best bet for early game spell builds. Plus, your equipment is really good, with actually a ring to boost sorcery right off the bat, and the best early game staff for sorcery. And although that all sounds great, your melee weapons just suck. They would genuinely work better to serve corn on the cob. And even though that's true, they aren't the worst options you could have. Like, it could have been the Broken Straight Sword, or like, the Rose of Ariandel. The armor, on the other hand, is probably one of the worst options. Even so, for what this class targets, it does deliver. And at number 7, we have the Herald. This is a battle cleric with spears and shields, and that's an interesting idea. Some would call it a paladin, others weak, and I can't truly decide which side that I'm on. On one hand, this guy has one of the best shields in the game, and a pretty okay armor for his vitality. And then on the other hand, he has a spear and a single, tiny, horrible healing spell to start with. I mean, I understand why, but come on, man, that is so annoying. Spears may have range, but the basic spear is pretty short, and no matter how good thrust damage is, it can't fully save this one, even with an S in Faith Infusions later down the line. You can shield poke, you can negate 100% physical damage, you can heal with the incantation if you're out of flasks, but this is just... it's trying so hard, but it has a meh weapon and the incantation that sucks. So, all in all, it really just feels like a support class in a single player game. The stat spread isn't even that bad either, with good endurance and intelligence, or rather, that's what I would love to say, but they're the only low stats. And let's be real, that isn't too big a deal on a class all about being a faith battle mage, except for the endurance. The endurance is a little bit rough. At number 6, we have the Thief. If you just so happen to be a luck builder, I think I know what you picked. This is the only starting weapon that actually has bleed, and the highest luck stat out of all the starting classes means that this is the best option for a luck build or even certain dagger builds. And if that wasn't enough for you niche players out there, say hello to the only starting class with a bow. You have lower faith, vitality, and strength, and that makes perfect sense for this class's strengths, which primarily focus dexterity and luck. It's hard to say it's bad when you really have a clear focus on a certain type of build, luck and bow builds. Luck builders getting that wonderful bleed weapon right off the bat and high luck, and bow builders getting a bow. This is the only class that starts with a bow, and decent dexterity with good melee options. And this shield may suck super badly, but having a bow means that range isn't that bad, even with a dagger for a main hand weapon. All that to say, you have options with this build, even if they're very niche options. At number 5, we have the Assassin. A true battle mage at first glance, and it uses a thrusting sword with a more or less useless spell. Having in a stock is good with a shield, but this shield is so utterly horrible for shield poking. It's good for parries, bad for being a freaking shield. And that annoys me when I have one of the better thrusting swords to shield poke with without a dang good shield. Plus, if you're looking at the spells, Spook is not all that useful unless you're trying your best to make it work. And it might, but good luck trying to get to that point. The armor is bad too, and it's clear that this is literally meant to be a potential class that becomes stronger later while sucking early. Its stat spread is good with only one stat, Faith, being below 10. And for a crit build, this is actually a really good option because of Spook and Parrying Shield and a stock. And for a battle mage, it's only okay, but you do get an early staff with decent stat investments. And at number 4, we have the Knight. A quality build has arrived, and their favorite class is this, because if you can't decide which dang weapon you want to use, you might as well go with old basic and reliable. You're getting good armor with decent defense and weight, a good reliable weapon and shield that you really can't go wrong with. And the stat spread is also just really nice. Good vigor at 12, baseline attunement, which you won't be using much, and just above average endurance means that you're actually going to have some pretty good survival stats. The real flexibility, though, comes with its vitality, dex, and strength, which allows you to use quite a few physical-based weapons pretty well. It feels very quality adjacent in that aspect, and its lack of luck really doesn't mean much because luck just isn't that useful. It also doesn't sacrifice too much in faith and intelligence either, even if they're just 9s. All in all, it's a really good character to pick, and for the basic starting class, it's a good choice for just figuring out what you want from your build. And at number 3, we have the Pyromancer. The armor may be meh, but that is because nothing else about this class is. You get the hand axe, which isn't the worst choice you could have, and the round shield is only meh, but at least you have that as an option. The real thing is starting with Fireball and the Pyromancy Flame, both of which are so dang reliable that just about nothing could shake my faith in them. And that damage may be low, but you have a ring to boost it. Plus, those are some really high intelligence and faith stats. However, its best quality is on its complete lack of luck, and since luck just isn't great for just about any build except for a pure luck build. This means that you get to invest it in more other stats, which is just about necessary for a Pyromancer. At number 2, we have the Warrior. For most men out there, this is our spirit animal. A dude in Viking armor with an axe and anger issues, beating people to death by yelling in their face and flexing too hard. This class starts with the highest strength in the game at 16, which can actually be doubled if you're two-handing a weapon, and therefore allows you to use weapons with massive requirements like Vort's Hammer or the Great Axe without need to invest more into strength. The armor is really good, and the weapon is actually one of the most reliable ones in the game, and the shield can still pull some dang weight. Also, getting the highest vigor is a very nice touch, and it is clear that this is meant for a tank build or pure melee build with multiple stats like dex, faith, and intelligence being below 10. And that's not even mentioning the insane 6 attunement that means you probably will not be using this for a skill build. I would have taken just about any stat over the 11 luck that we got, but screw you, 14 vigor and 16 strength is good, and I can eat Ludix Gundyr for breakfast with this class. And number 1, it's the Mercenary class. Reason? That starting weapon. This weapon should not be a basic weapon for a starting class. That is downright unfair. It's a paired weapon, and it just so happens to be one of the best weapons in the entire game. Other than that, the massive big ol' elephant in the room, this class gets clear dex focus with a massive 16 dex. And that's just insane. And it only gets better with good stats pretty much across the board. The weapon and dex stat is obviously the highlight, but there isn't anything too bad here. The armor is good, its stat investments are pretty great, with faith and luck being its only stats below 10. And everything here is just good. I just don't think there's much else to say. Probably the one downside is the useless shield that no one uses because twin blades are paired and absolutely insane. But for a shield-loving player, that's not the worst option you could have. And if you're a skill builder, you're probably going to want to go with this one. With 16 dex and actually pretty decent attunement, you're going to be able to use some skills right off the bat. Even if, the basic weapon doesn't have a good skill, later down the line, you might just want that. So, me personally, I think that picking the Mercenary is a dumb move because it's just not as fun to beat everything right off the bat. Call it cope. Call it getting good. Whatever you want to say, I stick by the fact that yes, the best class is the best, but it's more fun to play a Souls-like than a point-and-click adventure. And on that note, I want to thank you all for watching this video up until this point, and, as always, happy hunting.